Good evening, and welcome to the Dreary Midnight Podcast. My name is Lisa. My pronouns are she, they.
My name is Celeste. My pronouns are she, her.
And tonight, what are we talking about tonight, Celeste?
Tonight we are going to talk about the mysteries and legends behind Mount Shasta.
Let's get into it. Intro music.
Intro music.
So, until this very moment, I have not heard of Mount Shasta. Shasta?
You know what? I should have looked that up before. I'm going to look up the phrenology. No, it's not how you
Pronunciation?
The pronunciation right now. Okay, it is Shasta. Mount Shasta. Okay. So, I had also not heard of Mount Shasta until my husband was like, hey, you should do an episode on Mount Shasta because he watched a Y-Files video about it. And
I'm not familiar with him, but
it's a YouTube channel, but I really like them. I like how he sets up his, so if you want to go watch that, do that after this.
Okay. Yeah. Finish this episode first.
Yeah, I did not listen to that episode because I didn't want any overlap. So this is all my own research.
Cool.
But Mount Shasta is an active stratovolcano in Siskiyou County, California. Okay. Which is way up north in California, kind of on the border of California and Oregon. Okay. It has a more classic conical shape, which is formed by 4 distinct overlapping volcanic cones, which makes it a striking and easily visible landmark, which, with its snow-capped, top, is the ideal site for mountaineers, hikers, campers, and skiers alike.
Here I am just thinking it's going to look like Mount Doom.
No, it's a beautiful mountain.
Yeah. Okay.
It's 4,322 meters tall, or 14,179 feet. Okay. It's pretty high. It's pretty tall. And it's the second highest mountain in the Cascade Range and the 5th highest in the state of California.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty significant.
Yeah.
Also, it's not directly connected to any of the mountains. It's about 15 miles or so west of the standard arc line of the other Cascade volcanoes. Mm. So it kind of stands alone, and it basically looks like a giant mountain surrounded by green valleys of trees and foliage. Mount Shasta is this solitary mountain surrounded by greenery and forest. It's snow-capped. It has, it's super tall, and it just kind of, all of that image adds to the beauty and the mystery.
Follow-up questions. Does Smaug live there? Because I'm realizing now it's less Mount Doom and more Lonely Mountain, isn't it? Because it's west of all of the other ones, and if there are no dragons, I may be a little bit disappointed.
Well, there might be something in that mountain.
Okay.
But we'll get to that in a bit.
So, it's all snow-capped and pretty.
It's snow-capped and pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Yeah.
I think my dream place to live would be the PNW, although I haven't actually visited there. So, that's just same. According to pictures.
Yeah.
So, let's start. When we're unlocking the legends and mysteries of the mountain, 4 main categories. And the first one that I'm going to focus on is native legends.
Okay.
So,
do you know what tribes were living in that region?
I do.
Okay.
I have it here.
All right. Okay. For the listeners who didn't just see that, Celeste did the most glorious and dramatic hair flip as she took out the hair tie. So
I didn't even notice. I just took my hair tie out, swished my hair a little bit, and I was like, let's get into it.
All right. So things are getting intense.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, indigenous people have a long-established claim on the mountain and its history.
Yeah.
Artifacts found in the area suggest that humans have been living in that area for at least 9,000 years.
Oh, wow.
Which makes it one of the longest occupied areas in the country.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Indigenous tribes like the Klamath people have their own legends involving Mount Shasta. They believe the mountain is inhabited by the spirit of Chief Skell, who descended from heaven onto the summit of the mountain.
Okay.
According to legend, he fought a spirit from the underworld named Lau, who resided at Mount Mazama, and they lobbed hot rocks and lava tubes at the spirit. Like, the Chief Skell lobbed hot rocks and lava at Lao from the below world, resulting in eruptions on both mountains.
Okay. And what was the other mountain?
It was Mount Mazama.
Okay. Is that at all close to Shasta?
I think it was the name for Shasta.
Okay.
Because there's multiple indigenous tribes that are in this region.
So the chief comes down onto the top of what we now call Mount Shasta and starts fighting whatever's in there.
It's the
further down in
spirit from the underworld.
Yeah. Okay.
Lao. And so their fighting is what caused the volcanic eruptions.
Okay.
So that's the origin for that. Because it is a volcano. It's an active volcano.
Okay.
Although I think, according to the research I did, the last eruption was like, I don't know. There were multiple sources. There was some saying it was like thousands of years ago. There were some saying that it was like kind of every 800 to 600 years.
Is this one of those where we're due in for a catastrophic level eruption?
I don't think it's catastrophic level, but I don't know what the, like, when it says eruption, I don't know if it means like hot magma or if it means like
just ash
and stuff.
I mean, kind of desolate looking either way. Yeah. Anyway.
Either way. So, it's been a few hundred years, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Today, the mountain straddles the territories of the Shasta, Wintu, Achamawi, I should have really looked up these names. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing them wrong. Astajui, and Modoc tribes.
At Editing Lisa, fact check those and insert the corrections right now. Hey, it's Editing Lisa here. The pronunciations are Atsugewi, and I've heard a couple of different pronunciations, but I think the other one is Akamawi. But feel free to email me if that is incorrect. I've had like Google tell me 5 different things. Okay, bye. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Which can date their lineages back to a time when eruptions actually took place there.
Okay. So around 600 to 800 years ago, or
thousands of years ago. Like,
so these are all the folks that
inhabiting there for a while.
Yeah. So those are the folks that have been there for 9,000-ish years. Mm-hmm. Okay.
This is a quote from Taylor Tupper. She is a Modoc Indian of the Klamath tribe. Raised in the Klamath Basin, just north of Shasta. Mm-hmm. She said, Shasta is where Gumakumk, the creator, resided, and the original bones of the Modoc people are placed. I always bring offerings such as water or tobacco when I visit, because I never want to come to the mountain in a bad way. So, the volcano is also home to the Matakagmi, which is the Modoc word for Bigfoot, which are known as the keepers of the woods. Okay. And Tupper says Bigfoot have been in existence as long as our people have. So those are the native legends. Are the main ones that I could find are basically the Chief Skell and also the native, or I guess the Modoc Bigfoot. Yeah. Which I thought was cool.
Do you remember off the top of your head where the Patterson-Gimlin film was made?
Wasn't it also up in the Pacific Northwest? I'm going to look that up.
Yeah. For those of y'all who don't know what the Patterson-Gimlin film is.
Yeah, please tell them while I look it up.
So if you've seen or heard of that one super grainy, I think it was, it was in that area.
The footage was filmed alongside Bluff Creek, a tributary of the Klamath River.
Which is right by the mountain?
Well, because it was the Klamath tribe.
Oh my God. Okay, so.
About 25 logging road miles northwest of Orleans, California.
Okay, so let me finish this explanation for those of y'all who don't know. So that grainy looking film of what seems to be a Bigfoot walking away and kind of looking over its shoulder and then walking into the tree line. It was filmed in 1967 with a 1967 portable camera, so the film itself is not that great. But that one famous clip of Bigfoot that no one's been quite able to disprove, that is the Patterson-Gimlin film, because two guys whose last name are Patterson and Giblin.
I'm going to look up the distance between Bluff Creek and Mount Shasta.
But if anyone listens to Astonishing Legends, they did 13 hours on the Patterson-Gimlin film.
So Bluff Creek, to drive from Bluff Creek to Mount Shasta would be about 4 hours. However, if you look at the distance on a map, it's actually not that far. Like if you go
it
the
takes
straight
4 hours
to like
because
go
you have to go
the mountain
around the
range.
mountain. Yeah.
But if you just go straight shot, which, I mean, it's literally right across from each other, like only a few miles.
It'll probably, instead of 3.5 to 4 hours, it'd probably easily be like 2.5. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's
good,
cool.
Good memory and good recall.
I would love to
made my episode so much more interesting.
Yeah. I would love to do like Bigfoot in general and Patterson-Gimlin in particular, but again, Astonishing Legends like appreciate their thoroughness because they were able to do 13 hours on the Patterson-Gimlin film. I don't remember which one is still alive or was at the time of their recording.
Were they able to get an interview?
But they got an interview with him. I can't remember which one was, whether it was Patterson who was into it or Gimlin who was actually into it. And one of them was really, really into it, and one of them was a skeptic, and the skeptic is still alive. And so
that's an interesting dynamic.
And I don't know, what lends credibility to it is that he's just sort of like, this is what we saw, like, whatever. Like, he's had 50 years to say, like, okay, this was a hoax, here's how it was done, kind of thing. Like,
especially since he's a skeptic.
Yeah, and he was also there. Anyway.
Well, the Pacific Northwest is kind of like the Bigfoot
capital of the world.
Yeah, right? Because there's so many trees, there's so much untouched wilderness.
Yeah.
Like, my friend lives in Portland. I've never been there, but she's like, the city is built around the trees. Sort of thing. Yeah. You know, like, there's probably a lot of unexplored wilderness there.
Yeah.
That's why Gravity Falls takes place
in
the Pacific Northwest.
Yes. Anyway, so Mount Shasta.
Yeah, so back to that. The second thing I'm going to focus on is UFO activity.
Oh.
So Mount Shasta has had a ton of UFO sightings, which many hikers in particular have reported over the years.
Okay. What kind of stuff? Is it like just vague floaty things or?
Yeah, it's vague floaty things. So this one is not so much, I'm not so much interested in the UFOs as much as I'm interested in the explanation around them.
Okay.
Which I'm going to show you pictures.
Okay.
But one notable sighting occurred in 1991 when a couple allegedly saw a UFO hovering over the St. Germain Foundation property about 45 minutes from Mount Shasta. Another sighting was recorded recently in 2008.
Question.
Yes.
Sorry. So that 1991 couple, they were staying 45 minutes away and saw it, or they were standing on or near Mount Shasta and looked?
I think they were near the St. Germain Foundation property about 45 minutes from Mount Shasta.
So they were standing on the property, but when they were looking, were they looking at the mountain and saw things floating around it, or?
I think they were just nearby the mountain.
Okay.
They weren't looking
and saw
at
floaty
the
things also in the air nearby the mountain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So Brian Wallenstein, author of Mount Shasta Sightings, claims in his book that local law officials and Forest Service employees have spotted strange objects in the sky. I have not read his book, so I don't have I don't know how credible he is.
Yeah.
But this is the one that I was interested in. In February of 2020, people spotted an object in the skies above the mountain. The images went viral, but in the end, the UFO turned out to be lenticular cloud. Do you know what a lenticular cloud is?
I feel like I've heard of it. Like, it jogs a memory from third grade earth science, but I cannot for the life of me remember anything beyond that.
Okay. So Andrew Calvert, he's a scientist in charge at the California Volcano Observatory, which is something I didn't know existed, but I'm glad it does.
Yeah.
He explains that the volcano is so steep and so tall that it creates its own weather.
Huh.
Yes.
Yeah.
So This includes the spaceship-looking lenticular clouds that tend to form around the mountain, created, he says, by a humid air mass that hits the volcano and then has to go up a little bit to cool off. So
I'm picturing a short tornado.
It is literally looks like UFOs. Like, okay, I'm going to show you pictures. Ready? Here are from the Mount Shasta Museum site.
Okay. So if you've seen Gravity Falls or like have the idea of like the flattened UFO with a little bubble looking thing in the middle, lenticular clouds look like a couple of those with a very flat sort of bubble in the middle, kind of stacked on each other. Sometimes like one or two, sometimes like 4 or 5 in the one that Celeste just showed.
Yes.
But if you don't know that is a regular science phenomenon, I can see why you would think that that's UFO. Some sort of, yeah.
So, this is on the little Mount Shasta Museum, so I'm just reading off of that. It says that lenticular clouds are constant streams of condensing and evaporating wind currents. Layers of moisture and drier air cause this spectacular formation. Yeah. And like, especially if they're seen at sunrise or sunset and they have all the colors and stuff, it totally looks like UFO.
Because one of the photos you showed was at dawn or dusk, and it's like, okay, that looks ominous like an alien movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Mount Shasta area is known for its wide varieties of lenticular clouds. This occurs because of the moist air from the ocean encountering the mountain that obstructs its pathway like a rock in a river of water.
Okay, yeah.
So, they're really pretty, and they're not just in this area. They also happen in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
But because this, area is a popular place, it's a popular place to see them.
Is it mostly, like, I assume it's mostly for, like, volcanic mountains and, like, really warm mountains, or not really?
Well, it's something about the humidity, the moisture.
Oh, so it's a combination of altitude and humidity.
Yeah, because the humidity from the water.
Okay.
Paired with the height of the mountain.
Okay.
So it has to be like the perfect distance.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that it's probably more volcanic because no, there's like volcanoes that aren't in humid places, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about science.
Yeah.
But
geologists and mountain scientists of Dreary Midnight, please
chime in.
Send us an email, drearymidnightpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. But so those clouds are what made the viral 2020 UFO sighting, and the U.S. Forest Service had to issue a statement denying that it was a UFO. Denying there was an extraterrestrial craft.
Fair.
Because I didn't know about lenticular clouds until this moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But now we're going to get into the weird stuff.
Ooh, weird stuff.
If you look up anything about Mount Shasta legends or mythology, you are going to hear about Lemuria.
Lemuria?
Lemuria.
What is Lemuria?
So, let's go down this rabbit hole.
Ooh, love a rabbit hole.
I'm so glad you haven't heard of Lemuria before, because now I can enlighten you.
All right. Hit me with it.
Think back. Okay. It's 1865.
Okay. Civil War is about to end, just ended. What time of year is this?
1860. I don't know what time of year.
Okay.
But I just know.
The Civil War is or has just wound down.
Yes. And zoologist Philip Sclater theorizes that there is a long-lost continent that has sunk beneath the Indian Ocean. And he has called this continent Lemuria.
Okay.
Now,
where is he standing geographically?
I think he's British.
Okay. So not at all affected by the U.S. Civil War.
Okay. He was an English lawyer and zoologist.
Okay. But also, like, shout out to 1860s Britain for having the room to be a lawyer and a zoologist, because there's as much unknown as there is about zoology. Yeah. But anyway, so why is he theorizing about Lemuria?
Because if it existed, this landmass, this lost continent, would explain why lemur fossils have been found in Madagascar and India, but nowhere else in Africa or the Middle East.
As opposed to continental drift.
Yeah, well, Lemuria would have bridged the Indian Ocean and was thought to be the birthplace of lemurs, who later migrated from Madagascar to India.
Okay.
And as the story goes, similar to the lost city of Atlantis, the lost continent of Lemuria is said to have sunken because of an apocalyptic event, possibly the same one that sunk Atlantis. So the theory of Lemuria existing was discredited with the discovery of plate tectonics and continental drift in the 20th century.
Okay.
Now, you might be asking yourself, what the hell does this have to do?
I was a little bit curious.
Well, according to this theory...
Wait, okay. Can I guess?
Yeah.
Is the guess that... I'm going to guess that the runner-up location for Lemuria was the Pacific Northwest.
That's a good guess.
Okay. The runner-up thing is that Mount Shasta is like... If you were to like go somehow... dig a hole from the base of Mount Shasta through the Earth's core and come out the other side, it would be in the Indian Ocean, and that's why it's a theory.
That's also a good theory. That's not it.
What is it?
The theory is, or the legend is,
okay,
the Lemurians who lived in Lemuria escaped by way of the sea and settled under Mount Shasta, where they established the city of Talos and continue to live to this day. They somehow traveled all the way from the Indian Ocean to Oregon, or I guess Northern California.
Yeah. What, like, year, century type of... What time frame are they thinking this happened in?
I don't know.
Because, I don't know, if we haven't figured out continental drift yet, like, I don't know when they...
It was 19th century when Lemuria was proposed.
Yeah. But, I don't know whether they figured out the theory about migration, about, like, humans starting in certain parts of Africa and then migrating along the coast and taking stuff.
There were some people who believed in Lemuria, who believed that the Lemurian people were the proto-human, were the first humans.
Huh.
So they did kind of understand the idea of migration.
Yeah.
Like there.
But I've heard a theory that, like, Bering Strait used to be frozen and people walked across there and then migrated down the coast and then across the continent and so on and so on.
Yeah. Well, that's how they think we got lemurs.
They migrated over the Bering Strait?
They migrated over Lemuria.
Today's chaos, in case you haven't noticed.
It's so good, though. I knew this would be a fun episode.
Yes.
Thank you to my husband. Thank you, James Jordan.
All right. Shout out to Celeste's husband.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
So, the Lemurians, the people who now live in Mount Shasta, or underneath Mount Shasta.
According to this guy from England in the 1860s.
According to these conspiracy theorists.
Okay.
I don't know what's a kinder way to call them other than conspiracy theorists.
Wait, do people still actively think there's
Lemurians? People still actively believe this.
Okay. So now we're calling them conspiracy theorists.
Well, I don't know if... I mean, technically, it's conspiracy theorists. Technically, conspiracy theorists were like, oh, Apple is making it so that you have to buy their products every 3 years, and then that turned out to be true.
Yeah.
So...
Well, that turns out to be true. The Lemurian theory turns out to be continental drift. So now it's a conspiracy if you still think that this other plausible explanation
Here's the thing with Lemuria. I don't believe Lemuria exists. Okay. I don't think it exists. I think it was a good theory, but then it was disproven. Yeah. And I don't think Lemurians are the ones who might be in the mountain, but I think the mountain might have something.
Yeah. I mean, there's 9,000 years of human history. Something could well be in there. 9,000 years is a very long time.
Then we can believe in something else.
Yeah.
But I'm going to read to you the description of Lemurians.
Okay.
And then I'm going to read to you a Reddit account that I read.
Okay. Is this going to turn racist-y the descriptions of Lemurians?
No.
I don't know. It's a guy from 1865. Like, people could be problematic.
I don't think he believed in Lemurians. I think that it ended up, his theory of the continent ended up having an impact, and other people took that and ran with it.
Okay.
So it wasn't him. Okay.
So, descriptions of Lemurians.
It's literally, they think of like elves. Like Tolkien elves, like ethereal.
Like too tall and nigh immortal and pointy ears?
So they're believed to be 7 feet tall.
Okay.
Thin, graceful, with glowing skin. Okay. Extended necks adorned with collars made of gold, jewels, and beads, and long flowing hair.
Huh. So I'm thinking a little bit more Na'vi.
Ooh.
Yeah. From
Avatar.
The blue people Avatar. Not The Last Airbender. Yeah.
That's my favorite show. Na'vi is actually, that would be a pretty good explanation. Like, not explanation, but that would be a pretty good
mental image. Yeah.
Although, let me see. It says that they wear white robes and sandals and can be found dressed in tunics or without any clothing at all.
Okay.
According to this article, their superpowers are magnetism, electricity, and the ability to alter space and time. So these are like alien-esque type beings. Yeah. They have airships for transportation and have an artificial sun lighting their city created by a magical power. I don't know who... this is just
if they have magnets and electricity, then they could probably figure it out.
It's thought also that the lenticular clouds that we talked about earlier are ways to mask their... activity,
the takeoff? Yeah.
The takeoff of their aircrafts.
Yeah. That makes sense if we're believing that they're down there.
Exactly. Yeah. Apparently, Lemurians possess a small organ on their foreheads that gives them an array of psychic abilities.
So a literal third eye?
Like extrasensory perception, or ESP, telepathy, telekinesis, disappearing, and the power to influence how others think and act.
Huh.
The concept of the Lemurians is thought to have come from the 1899 book A Dweller on Two Planets by Frederick S. Oliver. Okay. And since then there have been many accounts of people seeing the Lemurians, which is probably why they're described as very extraterrestrial.
Okay.
Because it's like a sci-fi book.
Yeah.
It says that the Lemurians are able to influence the environment and possess unbelievable architectural capabilities. There are stories of them containing massive fires to protect their home and preventing earthquakes from impacting them. Okay. There was even a sighting that was reported to, like, he could see inside the mountain. He could see their vast, city. But that was disproven because people were like, you wouldn't be able to see that from this vantage point that you're describing. Yeah. And that was in, 1940. Yeah. You might be like, who would actually believe this? But according to a government-funded study, 89% of visitors to the mountain on a self-identified pilgrimage came to worship or commune with the beings that live under the mountain. Huh. So Mount Shasta is actually a travel destination for spiritually minded visitors. Okay. And every year, thousands of people descend on the mountain with the hope of communing with something beyond the terrestrial and geological. Okay. There are tourist guides and attractions dedicated to meditation, vision quests, and other New Age activities that try to tap into the mountain's various alleged spiritual hotspots. And there are even numerous bookshops offering the full range of metaphysical texts on healing, vibrations, crystals, which we were literally just talking about, angels, and so on, many of which claim to have connections to the mountain itself. So this is a thing that people actively are still into and believe in. They might not necessarily believe in Lemurians, but they believe that there's something.
Well, now I feel bad for making fun of the belief system.
I don't feel bad. Only because I think the idea that a people came from the Indian Ocean from a long-lost continent is outlandish. However, this is not that. I don't think these are people that believe in Lemurians. I think these are people who are like, there's something spiritual about this mountain. Yeah,
like, if you're going to visit the mountain to connect with something greater and find a community and, like, meditate and reset your whatever internally that you need to reset, I'm for that if it's in your budget and you're not harming anybody. Yeah. But
I do think that the idea of elves on Mount Shasta sounds really fun.
Yeah. Like, the fantasy nerd in me would love for that to be true. The part of me that's interested in lore, sure, I could get behind that. I don't know, and I'm not a scientist, but I don't know that many beings could survive the heat of a semi-active volcano.
Now, I will say, I don't necessarily believe, and this is my hot take, I don't believe in all this, but I think there might be something there. Because for some people, they just want a nice hike on a beautiful mountain, and they get more than they bargained for, like this Reddit user who posted on July 5th, 2019.
What a transition. I love it.
And this is called Very Strange Encounter on Mount Shasta.
All right.
And this is what I'll leave you with.
All right.
I've recently moved to Weed, California, a small town next to Mount Shasta, for work. I'm an avid hiker and love exploring. So naturally, 2 days ago, I decided to go hike the mountain on one of my days off.
All right.
Not entirely sure why, but I decided to drive my car very deep into the forest surrounding the base of the mountain, as far as the dirt road would allow me. It was around 3 p.m. with a clear sky, so I was very confident and enjoying the scenery as I got out of my car and started my hike, heading closer to the mountain. At first, it was your regular everyday hike. Lots of birds and squirrels around. That smell of nature that fills your lungs as you walk across the terrain. It wasn't until I reached a small dried up river that I noticed something was off. As I stopped to look at the dried up river and take pictures, I noticed that it was strangely very, very quiet. No birds chirping, no signs of squirrels or other animals, and even the sound of the wind you hear when you're on a mountain seemed to be completely gone.
So when we talk about horror and gothic stuff, rural gothic, I saw this on the internet somewhere, rural gothic written by city people says, oh, I was out in the woods and there was a noise. But like rural and forest gothic written by people who spend time in those environments is, I was out near the woods and there was zero noise. That's creepy.
I know.
No birds or anything. Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, at the time, I thought it was just an odd coincidence and started walking up alongside the river. But as I kept walking and being able to only hear my own footsteps, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Not the kind of feeling that makes you think someone is outside your window watching you. The kind of feeling that makes you feel multiple people or things are observing your every movement, studying you. I've never had that kind of feeling in my life. But what happened after made me completely forget about that feeling. I suddenly started to hear something out of nowhere that sounded like angelic humming or maybe a song with no lyrics. But it also sounded strangely electric, like the sound telephone lines make. It wasn't very loud, but enough to make me look in the direction it was coming from. I looked to the other side of the dried up river that had multiple trees and other foliage to see someone or something looking straight at me. It almost looked like a ghost, with it looking completely white. But this thing was very clearly there. It almost looked like it was wearing a robe, but I couldn't see any feet, hands, or even a face, although it had an oval head. However, I could feel it looking straight at me, almost as if it was trying to remember my every detail. Even from far away, I could tell its entire body had a very weird texture, almost like porcelain, but if porcelain was a silky fabric. It was very obviously not human. I was very understandably in complete shock and terror, frozen in place, kind of scared. We both looked at each other for what felt like forever, but it was most likely around 20 to 30 seconds. I very, very slowly started walking backwards. I don't think I took more than 2 steps when it tilted its head, as if it was curious or even surprised at what I was doing. All the while, I could still hear that electric, angelic humming, and I swear it got a little louder when I took those steps back. When I turned my head to look behind me to make sure the way was clear so I could run, the song suddenly stopped, abruptly, without warning. This shocked me, and when I turned back to look at the thing, it was gone. No sign of it anywhere. As soon as I saw that it disappeared, I ran as fast as I could, following the path I took back. Even after it had disappeared and while I was running, I could still feel like I was being watched from all sides. I almost tripped a few times in how fast I was going. When I got to my car, sounds of animals and the mountain winds suddenly came back, but I was still scared out of my mind and drove as fast as I could away from the mountain. I've never had anything paranormal happen to me in the past, and I've honestly always been very skeptical of stuff like that. But this experience has left me questioning a lot of things. I don't think I want to go back on that mountain. I've even had a nightmare about the experience. I'm not even sure what I saw or what to call it. That's why I'm like, I might not believe in Lemurians, but
something might be down there.
Something might be on that mountain.
Damn.
So,
oh my God.
However you feel about Mount Shasta, it is definitely something that is full of mystery.
Yeah.
So I think
that sounds really cool.
Worth exploring.
Yeah, it is. Maybe it is Bigfoot.
Maybe
it's Bigfoot.
Everything leads back to Bigfoot.
Everything does, in fact, lead back to Bigfoot. And if you want us to do a Bigfoot episode, support us on Patreon.
Nice transition. Check you out. Talking about my transition. Look at you.
Patreon.com/drearymidnights is where you can do that. You get the bonus show, which is Tourism Tales. It's all blog posts about things that happen when I work in tourism. Next post that's coming up is the one time that I ruined somebody's vacation.
Oh, apparently. No. I feel like that probably happens to a lot of tour guides at some point in their life, in their career.
It's the one time that I've actually actively been told I ruined their vacation, and also like the one time when I think the person was just mad that I canceled the tour.
I've heard about that one.
Yeah, but read that next week. Patreon.com/drearymidnight. If you want to follow the show on Instagram, we are at drearymidnightpod. If you want to get in touch, drearymidnightpodcast@gmail.com. And with all of that said, be wary of tall beings with porcelain skin. And safe travels home on this dreary midnight. Good night.
Good night.